Scar doing exactly what it was supposed to do. They noted enemy action there. There's a big congressional force coming on the field. Obviously, they think they have enough people to take the small number of British that are in this fortification. And so they are marching on. The lead group there with the white flag is the Illinois Regiment. The Illinois Regiment is the unit on their Virginia State Forces. And they're the ones who marched out to Fort Sackville here in Vincennes in 1779 and took it away from the British. So they're representing a unit that actually did fight here. Clark is credited, along with some other frontier fighting organizations, with making it possible for the United States to claim the entire area between the Appalachian Mountains and Mississippi River at the end of the war. You'll see pretty much as they maneuver on the field, the picket guard being the exception, but when whole units are maneuvering around on the field, pretty much they're staying in a straight line. Reason being, most of the soldiers are fighting with the musket. Not as accurate a weapon as a rifle, but loads more quickly. And the reason it's not accurate is that undersized ball bounces back and forth in the barrel on the way out. The best way to take casualties is to fight in a straight line and be directly facing the enemy, because you're just aiming at center mass. You're aiming at the chests of the guys across. That's the broadest target you can be aiming at. And so you don't want to be in an angle. If you can, you want to be directly across from them. They've got an artillery piece, a very small one, a swivel gun, down in the British, the British fortification, but it looked like they tried to fire in it just now and it didn't go off, because I saw a big puff of smoke and didn't hear anything. So that's going to be a big disadvantage for the British if they can't get that thing in working order, because they're seriously outnumbered. Advantage they may have had, and in fact, you'll see now, as a distraction from that, they've ordered some of the soldiers out of the fort and out of the fortification and out on the field there. It sounds like maybe it went off that time. The reason you don't see more rifles is, A, muskets are a lot cheaper to make, but rifles might take you a minute to load your rifle, whereas you can load and fire your musket 4 times in that same minute. So when you're talking about mass warfare as opposed to hunting or sniping, you're more likely to hit somebody if you are standing in a straight line using that musket, because you can fire 4 times more often, and eventually you're going to hit somebody. Now, I think unbeknownst to the congressional forces on the field, some British reinforcements were coming, and you can see now they've come onto the field back in the back. That's the 42nd Regiment, the Black Watch, or the Royal Highland Regiment. You can see now the Illinois Regiment in the blue coats scrambling around. They were about to push forward and try and take the British emplacement, and now they've had to completely turn around and fight an enemy behind them. This causes a big problem for the American commander, because he's now got 2 separate battles taking place here. And he's got to make sure that he's got troops facing all the groups of British that are out, either out on the field, and he's got to also make sure that he doesn't get one group too far separated from the rest where it can be captured. You'll see some blue coats in the little British breastworks here. The blue coats are German auxiliaries. We sometimes call them Hessians. Actually, these aren't from Hesse or Hesse-Kassel. They're from Brunswick, so. but King George III hired soldiers from Germany in order to augment the British Army because they were fighting in so many places in the world during the time of the American Revolution. I think if you look closely, you'll understand why we try and keep spectators off the field. We are using blank rounds, but these weapons use black powder, and if their men are enough in the shade, you can see what looks like fire coming out of the muzzles, which is the black powder. So it can be dangerous, even firing without any ammunition in there, just the powder. All these weapons are flintlocks, meaning that the powder is ignited by a piece of flint or rock hitting a piece of steel.
Nice and slow, Larry.
Now you'll notice the British light infantry is moving in, and they're actually coming, it looks like they're coming in on the backside of some of the congressional troops there. And so the congressional, now, you see they're moving people around now again in response to that. They got to be very careful that they don't have anybody in charge of anybody who's going to be shooting their own people in a friendly fire incident, because there's so much maneuvering around going on out there in response to the surprise of that other group of British coming in from the back. Now the problem is we got artillery pieces in the British Defense Works, and not enough people left to guard it. We've got, that looks like Logan's company, and Culpeper County Minute Battalion. They're local militia or Minutemen, and a lot of times they're derided as being really bad soldiers because they're just local defense force and not well trained. But these guys obviously have seen some combat. They have taken over the British position there, which means they've also captured the artillery pieces that were firing in there. Anybody left is surrendering. It looks like most of the Brunswickers and the British regulars have left the fortified area and are now out on the field. And you'll see now there's some Continental Marines and some others who are trying to now do their own flanking action and run around behind the remaining British. There's some casualties, not a lot, partly because you would inflict the most casualties with the musket at about 50 yards or so, and we were further apart than that during some of this, and partly because who wants to die in the first 2 minutes of the battle and then have to lie there in the grass for the rest of the time. But really, 18th century warfare was a lot closer to face than anything that we usually think of today with the modern weapon. A rifle, by the way, could fire maybe 100, 200 yards. The British are trying to stand, but the congressional forces are pretty determined that they are gonna take and hold this defensive position and get control of the river crossing. And I think one mistake made by the British commander was he left those reinforcements way far in the back of the field and didn't get them up with the rest, and so it was easy for them to get surrounded. You see a couple surrendering now back in the back of the field after the last volley was fired by the Illinois Regiment.
Surrendering.
The 42nd Regiment is surrendered or they're down. All the wounded, by the way, will be taken care of by the surgeons of whichever side is victorious. The remainders of the Crown forces are holding the field there. They haven't given up. However, here's some yelling going on there. Maybe that's the German sergeant of the Brunswick Regiment back there. I couldn't hear what that exchange was, but my guess is he was telling the congressional commander to go fly a kite or something similar. But now we're kind of at a standoff. So, you know, what has to be done now is either you have surrender talks and see which side is willing to surrender, or one side withdraws, or you just fight it out till the last man is down. And I'm hearing 3 cheers out there, which means that the congressional forces, well, there's still some firing going out there. So we thought we had a victory and the British were surrendering, but no, they're not. Looks like they've decided they didn't like whatever surrender terms were offered to them, and at least some of them have decided to go off and see if they can gain a place of safety and then regroup and come back another day rather than fight it out to the last absolute second. Now we've got some actual talking going on there between officers from either side. At this point, the congressional commander will offer surrender terms, and it's up to the British officer to either accept or reject them, but I don't know that he has a whole lot of choice at the moment.
Ice cold raspberry tea.
I hear some yelling out there, so obviously things have not been entirely. That was kind of ungentlemanly. The Illinois Regiment executed essentially the officer of the 42nd back in the back of the field. He must have probably issued some sort of insult that couldn't be borne. Although generally speaking, if somebody surrendered, they were taken prisoner and fed and taken care of until prisoner exchange talks could take place. And you can see now the remaining British there are being marched off the field, or they've got their muskets upside down, which is a signal that they have surrendered to the forces of the Continental Congress and are going into prison camp or prisoner status anywhere. And now we have 3 cheers from the forces of the Congress proving that they are capable of defeating the representatives of the largest empire in the world. So that concludes our battle demonstration this afternoon. We thank you very much for coming to see us. We hope you had a good time. This is our last battle demonstration for this 41st Spirit of Vincennes Rendezvous. We completely expect that we'll be back next year for the 42nd